Hey everybody, welcome to episode 5 of WAM. I'm Nick Palme, coming from Texas.
And I'm Nolan Wally, coming to you from the downtown studio of my girlfriend's closet in LA.
It's really classy stuff on this podcast. It's really only the highest quality.
We've really upgraded.
So this week we're going to be talking about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Mutant Mayhem. I know in the last podcast episode, we'd previously said we'd be reviewing Barbie, but because of just schedule problems and Nolan being in LA, we just couldn't end up seeing it. So we just decided to see this because it just came out. So it kind of worked out.
Yeah, I was able to fit in watching Mutant Mayhem at the Chinese theater. Barbie wasn't as available to me. I mean, overall, I'm really sad I'm not going to be able to see Barbie probably until it hits digital. But we can always review it then. We can always just do a short snippet on it on a different podcast talking about how we liked it. It'll just be up to what ends up happening.
Yeah. So I think really just the first place we should start is the art style. In this movie, I think was it supposed to be a hand-drawn thing?
Yeah, I mean, in
Is that the
reviews,
idea?
they were talking about they wanted the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles to look like they were drawn, and you can see that with other characters too. The most cop-out obvious reason for this is almost every face is asymmetrical.
Oh my god, it was horrible.
Yeah, regarding the art style, I
Mm.
like how they were thinking about it. Some of the stuff they did look cool. Notably, the main turtles. I'm a sucker for how Splinter looked with his dad look. Superfly, the main villain, had a really nice design, but a lot of the background characters looked dumb.
I don't know. They were kind of, I guess, uninspired almost. Like Superfly was just this huge jacked fly, but the others had all like sunglasses and boomboxes and like jean jackets, and
That is
they
true.
just didn't have any characterization besides like the surface stuff.
Yeah, I can sort of see what you mean by that. I do think it's kind of lame that Superfly had the worst outfit out of all of them with that name. And he had a cool car, and I like that about
Yeah,
him.
the lowrider was sick, but with the asymmetrical faces, they were horrifying. Like I thought every time I saw a person close up, it was just scary. And then the girl April was like short, like her legs were too small for her body, and it was just God. It was like Rick and Morty background characters. It was just horrible. I hated it.
You're totally right. This is absolutely if someone tried to mold a Rick and Morty character into 3D almost. I see what you
It
mean
was
by that.
God.
It's a
I
lot of
really
the
liked how the
eyes.
turtles looked. Yeah, and I liked how the world looked and how it was drawn and like just how like the light fell and everything. But just the people were just they were freaks. It was scary. Like dude, if I was a little kid, I would be like deeply concerned if I saw that at the movie. Like Coraline, like when you're 4 kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, this is obviously a movie that's supposed to be given to people under the age of teenager. This is what
Mhm.
PG-13, PG around that area. I mean, kids of any age can really be watching this, and it is
Yeah, I
targeted
think it
towards
was
children.
PG-13 just because of the violence, I guess.
Okay. Uh, but keeping that in mind, if this isn't necessarily an art style that is approachable to children, it's not going to give them a ton of horror. But I do think they're going to look at it and be like, this isn't super appealing. At least the foreground had a lot of problems, but I really enjoyed the background. How did you feel about just the locations and the sky and anything like that?
I mean, it didn't it never got to a point where I looked at it and I was like, "Whoa, that looks like really pretty."
Hmm.
Like it just looked like an accurate city, I guess, but I wasn't paying too much close attention to it, but nothing made me want to pay attention to it like that.
That's fair.
Um One thing that did really bother me with the animation that I think was just a choice is that like when some of the people would talk, their mouths wouldn't really line up. And it even got to the point where I thought in my theater that the mix was off when Splinter was talking in the start of the movie, because
Mm.
it sounded like there were 2 of him, like, literally just 2 of him, like, slightly delayed, and it was
Sad.
really weird. But I also heard that happened with the second Spider-Verse movie when that came out, so it could just be that.
Yeah, it could be, that there might be an issue with the, because both of these movies, I believe, have, lower frames when it comes to this animation for stylistic
Yeah,
purposes.
it's on because it's on 2s and they just hold that frame for longer. Also, this was
Mm.
PG, it says.
Oh, it was PG. I mean, I get that. It
Yeah.
says "damn" a few times in it though, so I'm a little
Yeah,
surprised.
but I don't think that's considered a bad anymore.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, with what kids are allowed to see nowadays, it's pretty fine.
Onto Splinter. You said you
Splinter.
really liked it?
I really enjoyed this adaptation of Splinter. I understand it's like giant divergence from the average or Master Splinter, usually being more focused on being very strict, very brooding, I guess. But this one was a little bit more colorful, focused on his ninja training coming from 80s training videos. Um,
Yeah, I
I mean,
think, like,
no, go ahead.
um, Splinter the whole dad thing and, like, the Master Splinter bit, it's just in the sequels that are going to be coming, I assume, I guess, because of the teaser at the end, but we'll talk about that later.
Mhm.
I can't ever see him in any role as a mentor and, like, a wise, like, teacher to, like, go to for advice. I just see him as, like, a wacky, like, dad character, and that's all he was in the movie.
That is
And
true.
even when he was doing, like, kung fu and stuff or karate, whatever, um, like, it was cool, and it was like, "Whoa, look at him doing that," but he was shuffling around like a dad, like an old man when he was doing it, like, in between, like, "Oh, there's a guy over here, let me, should turn around," and then he, like, would kick his ass, but, like, it was I don't know, it's just I can't see him in that role at all, and I think that's gonna be really important because there's
Mhm,
always been I haven't seen a lot, but at least in the Turtles
mhm.
content that I have seen, there's always been a pretty clear conflict and rivalry between Splinter and, Shredder.
Yes. Um, I think
And so I don't know if that can exist in the next movie. They might be trying to, like I don't know, I guess they could do he might be
mhm.
trying to, like, take the turtles as, like, his mentors, but I don't know.
Mhm. I do think you make a good point. This is a complete difference from being a mentor to being a very obvious and cliche father figure. Um,
Mhm.
Overall, they were talking about how this adaptation they wanted to focus mostly on the teenage aspect of the characters because they thought that always got the sideline. And obviously,
Yeah.
I think they took that as okay, let's get a lot of these characters to reinforce that. So we're going to make Splinter into a father figure that we can sort of have connected to just their story of growing up and changing. And then we will change April O'Neil to be not only around their age, but also sort of be like the oh, I don't fit in kind of character. Um,
Yeah.
a lot of the changes are just there to highlight, I guess, what Seth Rogen, because he was the lead writer on this, I believe,
Mhm.
believed
Yeah.
was the high school experience.
Yeah, I think I understand why they made Splinter the way he did, but I think they could have very easily done the like, even just a little bit more, like, kind of stern and, like,
Hmm.
whatever, a wise mentor character. And then later we could just see that, like, touching dad aspect, and it could be like a, "Oh, wow, he really does care," kinda deal or something like that.
That is
Um,
true.
mm,
Because we know that he cares throughout all of this. He's never cold to the turtles. His
yeah.
conflict is more labeled on
He
his
doesn't wanna let
despise for
them go,
humanity.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he doesn't wanna let them go out, but I think with the turtles, with them being, like, teenagers being accentuated so much, I think they did well in how they interacted with each other and, like, constantly talking over each other, just,
Mhm.
like, piling up. But one thing I didn't really love was all the social media references and, like, pop culture stuff, which I understand why it's to, like, show they're, like, completely enamored with the outside
Mhm.
world and everything, but when they were just, like, straight up, like, it sounded like a Family Guy cutaway. It was like that point in Shrek when he did and I was like, "Dude, are you that's literally a part of the movie." He goes, "Like
He
that
did.
spot in Shrek when he does this." It's like,
Well,
Are we really doing this?"
I oh my gosh, I don't necessarily remember that, but I do remember that there was a large focus on just saying that the turtles looked like Shrek. This thing, I do agree, is filled with pop culture references. And for some reason, in my mind, it makes it feel as if it's dated now, but will get better with time because we'll sort of see it as a good relic, while other movies we see as a bad relic.
See, I
However,
don't
no, go ahead.
I yeah, I don't know if it'll be a good relic because it's the references they use are obviously a little dated already because when they when they wrote
Yeah,
the
when they wrote
movie,
them.
um, it was like whatever, it was ages ago. Um, and I don't think that's gonna get any better. I don't really know. Besides like the one scene where the four of them are just like freaking out together on the rooftop.
Oh, yeah, I love that
And then
part.
yeah, and then the girl says something, I don't know, just like, "You're stupid," and then they just stop and then go back to it. That is silly. But, how do you feel about the music, do you think, in this movie?
Well, are you referring to the playlist of, music that had obviously already been written that they used throughout it, or are you talking about the original soundtrack?
Let's say first, let's say this the original soundtrack, the original music for it. How do you think that it
Well,
was
I'm a huge
when you
sucker
heard it?
f
Yeah.
yeah, I'm a huge sucker for, Atticus Ross and Trent Reznor, which, wrote the soundtrack. They have done a lot of great soundtracks like The Social Network, Watchmen, Soul. They're previously known as Nine Inch Nails, and I love a lot of their music. This, I think, is good, but nowhere near their best.
Hmm.
Um,
Did you say they did the Watchmen movie?
they didn't do the Watchmen movie, they did the Watchmen HBO show.
Oh, I was hoping they made that horrible, horrible sex scene
The
with
hallelujah in that?
yes.
Nah, that had already existed, sadly.
Oh my god. If you're not doing anything right now, like, just go look up,
The sex scene
what
in
the
the
Watchmen
Watchmen
movie
movie,
sex scene. It's so bad,
it's
it's so funny.
horrible. You know what's really funny?
Hmm.
Zack Snyder directed that and he put it in there. He used that same song to use for the trailer for his cut of, Justice League.
That's horrible,
He had
dude.
to use it
That's a
twice.
bad connection. That's a bad connection. I don't wanna know that. I don't wanna think about that when I see The Flash or something. Um, yeah, so the original music, I think, was it was subtle. The actual music that they made, I think, was very
Mhm.
subtle.
Yeah, it was subtle. I like it. There was obviously a lot of electric undertones in it that are
Mhm.
pretty cool. It's just not noticeable. It's never front facing you. There's always something more intriguing to be paying attention to.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's like that when you're doing a score, though.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it, especially in this movie, they just used so many, popular songs and
Mhm.
also just a really good range of songs. Um, and that also just helped with the turtles just feel younger and more just kind of into the world, and they just wanna be part of it because they love all the music
Yeah.
and, like, the
Gosh.
culture in the movies and all that.
Me and Sydney, my girlfriend, after watching it, we've had the song "What's Up" stuck in our head. Okay? Do you know what song I'm talking about just by doing that? Just by saying the title?
No.
The title's "What's Up."
No.
It's 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 so
Oh, the
it's
He-Man
that one.
song?
Yeah, it's the He-Man song. It's called "What's Up," not "What's Going On."
I
It's a
just know it as
horrible
the
song
He-Man
choice.
song.
Yeah, that's fair.
I think it was silly. It worked pretty good.
It worked really good. I really enjoyed
It was
it
great.
in the scene it had. They had a
Yeah.
scene where they were, I guess, doing a chase, or not. It wasn't a chase scene yet. They were being kidnapped in some sort with a team of,
The
no,
the
you
stakes were rising,
yeah.
in the movie, and they were getting kidnapped, and stuff was going down, and it was starting to go bad.
So they shifted from the original cover of the song "What's Up" to the He-Man popular cover of it right as things got tense, and I thought it was really funny and it really fit the scene, and it was just a really great choice. I
I think it was
couldn't,
really well done.
yeah, I can't believe it wasn't done before this.
I mean, really, it's definitely been used before, but excuse me, it's definitely been used before, but in this movie, it wasn't God, I'm hiccuping. This movie, it wasn't painful. Like, it wasn't I didn't cringe, I guess, when I heard the
Yeah.
song. because it went along, like, the animation was on time with it, like, all the
Mhm.
characters' movements and everything, and their choreography was all in time with the song, and it all just worked really well, and
Yeah.
so instead of getting the scene and then putting the song over, they really animated it to the song, and I think it really shows in a lot of this movie, just, like, the cuts, the movements that they're doing, just everything is really they paid attention to the music and the tone that it was, or just the feel of that certain part of the song, and they made sure to copy that into the actual film.
Yeah. The music, there is I agree with you, there's such a great range of all the different genres that they're showing off
Mhm.
in this, and they all fit the scenes very well. Oh
To
my
be clear,
gosh.
we're talking about the pop culture music that
The
they
pop
put in,
culture
not the,
music,
like,
yeah,
original soundtrack at this
not the
point,
original soundtrack.
'cause there's a lot of really good pop culture music in this.
Yeah. Atticus Ross, I have to see you after class. It's not horrible, but you can be doing better.
Yeah, they can't all be winners.
They can't all be winners. They have a great track record. I'm not gonna be angry at something that's just not like incredible. It's good.
Yeah.
How do you feel about overall the cast? The voice actors for the turtles weren't necessarily as big as the rest of the cast, but we had pretty stacked for everything else. Do you remember who's who?
I don't really remember who's who, but the voice that stuck out to me the most was Superfly and,
Yes.
God, is Mikey the orange one, right?
Yeah, Michelangelo.
Yeah, yeah. Um, both whoever did Michelangelo and Superfly, both were just really
Mhm.
good to me. They
Uh,
sounded great.
Michelangelo, I believe, was a little bit of an unknown. I can look at who he was, but Superfly was actually Ice Cube.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Hmm,
We also
I didn't know.
had some other things you might not know. Bebop the pig was played by Seth Rogen. The rhino next to him at all times was played by John Cena. Um, I think the only really other notable ones are Jackie Chan as Splinter, and then we had that one fun little gecko that's throughout the whole thing.
Yeah, isn't that, Paul Rudd?
Yeah, it is Paul Rudd.
Yeah, that's the only one I remember.
I
It's
couldn't
Paul
I
Rudd.
couldn't tell at all. It's very
I
I mean,
could.
really? Did he sound like Paul Rudd to you?
Yeah, he sounded like Paul Rudd.
I
It just
wasn't
sounded
paying
like him
attention, to be
talking.
honest.
He sounded like Ant-Man. Um, but I think, man, I don't know why they would get all those big names for those secondary roles, 'cause like we were saying before,
Mhm.
that pig and the rhino, they probably had the most characterization out of those, like, those background characters besides maybe the gecko and Paul Rudd,
Yeah,
but,
the
like,
gecko and Paul Rudd.
both of they were actually separate, um,
There was the
but
gecko and Paul Rudd was by his side the whole time.
yeah, Paul Rudd is actually also there. He's Ant-Man, though, he was really small, you couldn't see him.
You couldn't tell.
So I don't get the point of having that stacked cast for those characters when they barely had any characterization, and the ones that had the most being John Cena and, who was the other was it Seth
John
Rogen
Cena
was
and
the
Seth
other, or who
Rogen,
is it?
yes. It
Yeah,
was John Cena and Seth Rogen.
like, they have the most, I guess, out of them, but
Yeah.
even then, not even 5 minutes on screen, I'd
Yeah,
say.
I mean, overall, there's a lot of different mutants that are in this, and you're supposed to be led to believe that they're sort of a mutant family that we see outside the Turtles. Um,
Yeah, that's what they are.
I don't necessarily believe they should have that many. It didn't seem that important to have all of them there, but I do enjoy seeing all of them work together as a family in some
Mhm.
aspects. When it comes to the cast, I don't think it was necessary to have that big of a cast to play these characters, but it doesn't seem to
No.
have done anything wrong. I don't think any of them did bad in voice acting, and it certainly didn't drive up the budget because what I was talking about earlier with you was when we saw the budget of this, it was reported to be around $80 million, which is a very small amount to be
Yeah,
having in
that's
today's
that's
movie
pretty
market.
low for a big budget movie like that. That's incredible.
Yeah,
Especially for an IP like Ninja Turtles, that's pretty amazing.
yeah.
But that's just because of its animation, and that costs, like, pennies.
Once you just get a few animators inside of a cage, it really doesn't cost anything.
It's really easy, you can get those guinea pig bottles that get water. It's really we got a big one. It's perfect for them. We only have to change it out, like, once a week. Uh, but just overall in this movie, I think I really liked the beginning because it
Mhm.
was just kind of like, no nonsense. I didn't have to get to know the guy.
Oh, yeah,
This
yeah.
evil scientist with with the baby Superfly and all the other mutants, and he creates the whatever, the mutant ooze.
Yeah.
Uh, and it's just, we see him, he gives a really short blurb, like he just wants his family, and that ties in later with Superfly. That's his
Yeah.
same motivation or whatever. He wants to be accepted. And it's just really, a lot of movies I think especially used to struggle with like showing you too much of like how they got to be that superhero, or how they got there, I guess, their origins.
Yeah.
And this movie just really didn't go into it very much, and I really liked how brief and concise, and it didn't treat the audience like they were stupid. Like, it's in the fucking title, these are mutant turtles. Come on now, like, we know they're ninja turtles and they're mutants, it's in the name, we get it. And it's just, I really enjoyed it. It was really
Yeah.
refreshing. I was worried about it going in.
I think this does something that we're going to see a lot with the continuation of IP and reboots, in which we don't need to be told the whole story of their origin. We know it already. All we need to know is how you're differing from it. And the main differences are in this is okay, we're going to have a deep father son relationship with the Turtles and Splinter. And they show this through the origin story in that. They show how they differ from like the ninja training uh, for comedic reasons to be sort of in a 80s workout routine. And I mean, they don't really have an origin in this, but they also do because we don't necessarily see them start crime fighting until we join them. But that doesn't feel like an origin because we know that these are sort of established characters.
Yeah, it's really just like, I mean, they learn karate. Splinter teaches them for purely self-defense because he takes
Mhm.
them above ground when they're babies and gets like beaten and yelled at and has to like run away and almost killed.
Yeah.
And so that's why he's so like crazy scared of humans in general, and that kind of plays out through the movie. But so the only reason he ever teaches them that those martial arts is just so they can defend themselves, and then we never see them, like you said, make that move to start like helping people. And actually, I mean, in the movie, did they do anything crime fighting wise before they saw April?
No, they didn't. The first time they say explicitly this will be the first time that they're fighting people is when they are trying to take back April's stolen what motorcycle or
Yeah,
moped of
moped.
some sort. Yeah, when they're trying to get it back from I guess these criminals, they say this is the first time they've ever fought and they're not great at it, but they still get a good victory and it's a pretty good moment. The fighting in that is great and it only gets better from there.
Yeah, they definitely get, you see him kind of struggle with it, but it's not like, again, it's not painful, it's not dragged out. You see
Mhm.
them struggle with it. They have some problems, but they overcome them pretty fast. And none of the movie is, I mean, it's about mutant turtles, but none of the movie is unbelievable in terms of what they're learning and like just the journey that themselves are going on.
Yeah, once you've given the premise and you just understand the rules of the universe, you don't necessarily argue with them, in any
Yeah,
sense.
like, it doesn't stand out or any at any point. It's not offensive or anything. It just makes sense when it goes through.
Speaking speaking of sort of the action that happens throughout this, how did you feel about right after the scene where they first, start fighting crime, you see them sort of go through a montage of them getting names and fighting mobsters in the area. How did you feel about that montage scene?
I mean, I thought it was interesting. I would have liked to actually see more of it in like a fully realized scene.
Mm.
Not necessarily all of them for sure, but at least like one more maybe.
Mhm.
But I did enjoy how it felt. Again, the music in that was great. It was all cut beautifully and edited really nice, and I have no complaints about it. But I just did enjoy the fight scene before, and I would have liked to see more. That's really it.
I get that. I think it is sort of a jump to go from, okay, this is our first time fighting to here's like a supercut of us being the best crime fighters ever in this montage of us fighting at multiple locations. I will say though, how they animated that I was really happy with because they show them sort of breaking into four mobster hangouts. And it sort of has a very similar layout. You have all the bosses sort of reacting the same and the henchmen reacting the same. And because of that, they can cut so seamlessly between all of the four
Hmm.
different cuts. And it almost makes it seem as if it's completely invisible what they're doing. Uh,
Yeah, like it's the like they'll kick down the door and then like aim whatever something one of their weapons towards
mhm.
like the boss, and then it's just cutting between that, and then it's a new one of the four turtles each time they bust through the doors, and it I mean it just really fits. I think everything in this movie they took really good consideration for the film itself and how it feels, and it just feels energetic and like not necessarily like teenagers made it, but it has the same spirit and the same energy a lot of the time.
Yeah, I can see that. It's very enthusiastic in everything it does.
That yeah, exactly. Hey everybody, Nick here. This is just an after podcast note that I wanted to add in that my girlfriend actually brought up a really good point. Who does Mikey's braces? Uh, Mikey in this movie has a perfect set of metal braces, with the wire and everything going across his teeth. How'd they get him? Who did the braces? Who's his orthodontist? I just want you to think about that. That's it. Thank you. Enjoy the rest of the episode.
There is, I think, a gripe we haven't necessarily talked about. We have talked about other characterizations of these characters, but how do you feel about this version of April O'Neil,
I
specifically Puke
mean,
Girl?
yeah, that was stupid. That whole bit. I didn't need that at all. I didn't need her character arc. It's whatever. But
Yeah.
I don't I didn't need a love interest, I guess.
Yeah.
Um I didn't I really think that isn't needed. And I mean, I understand in all the other turtle stuff, I think she always is a love interest, but she really didn't need to be at all at this point.
Hmm.
I mean, they are like 15 in this. They ain't doing that shit.
I think, yeah, really importantly, I've never been fond of the casting of April O'Neil as a love interest to the turtle. I think to the turtles. I think it's really weird. I don't want to think about the implications of that. Um, I don't know. Call me I guess conservative in a sense, but I don't think people should be dating turtles.
Whoa. Whoa. Dude.
Don't cut that out. Don't cut that out.
Don't cut that, don't cut that.
Uh, what's weird though is in every adaptation I've seen so far, it's always a different turtle that has a really big crush on April O'Neil. I think in the like 2012 animated series, the 3D animated, it was Donatello that had a crush. I think in the Michael Bay movies, it was Michelangelo that had a crush. And then we go to this Seth Rogen one, and it's Leonardo that has a crush. I don't get it. I mean, we're not even playing around with who really gets the girl. It's more of just,
Yeah, I
oh, we
don't
have to care about this character because one of them is attracted to her.
yeah, I don't I mean, I'm sure at some point there's like a "you can have her, she's mine" conflict love triangle thing, but
Hmm.
I don't consume Ninja Turtles content. I don't know what that is. And so just in this movie, it just didn't feel necessary at all. I just didn't care. That was really my
Yeah,
only problem with the movie. I didn't care about that at all.
yeah. I guess, yeah, really, it only really served to get Leonardo out of his shell in this because he's the only one that necessarily wants to follow Splinter's rule of staying away from humans until he meets April O'Neil, and that's supposed to be him, uh, pardon my pun, coming out of his shell.
I'm gonna kick your ass. Shut up.
But just I don't know, her being a love interest is weak. I think the puke girl bit where she's sort of like a really nervous girl is a little strange. Her
Yeah.
being like the oh I'm different from everyone else thing. I guess it's fine. I don't care about her character design as much, except it's a little weird that she is like Leonardo literally has bits throughout it where they say, "Oh, she's the most beautiful girl in the universe." I mean, comparatively, she is because everybody else's face looks like
Yeah,
it's
everyone
melted
else
on one
looks like
side.
Play-Doh. Yeah, it's just bad.
She does look better than the rest of them. I can give her that. But
Yeah,
it's
she looks
still like,
better, but I don't care, man. They're
yeah,
turtle ninjas. Come on now.
yeah, that is fair. I imagine Ninja Turtles have different tastes in women than I do.
I okay, this is a very important question actually. Okay. Who do you think the turtles would be, tits or ass men?
They have to be ass.
I'm thinking ass men.
just because, like,
Why have to?
we specify throughout the movie, they specify that turtles don't have nipples. I feel like they would be attracted to ass because they have ass. You know what I mean?
So, like, nipples would just be, like, weird to them? They're like, "Whoa, what?
Yeah.
Dude."
It would be that's like a fetish almost. Like, if a guy got with a mutant and she had antennas and he was like, "That's what I love about you the most." They would think, "Man, that's weird." That wouldn't be the
Do
norm.
you do you think so does April like Leonardo or whoever in this
No,
movie?
we see them being closest friends. She's doing it mostly because she, was helped by them in trying to get her moped back, and you also see her trying to become a journalist in this, and obviously
Yeah,
finding Teenage
with
Mutant
the
Ninja
nervous
Turtles is
thing and
pretty
those.
good. Um,
Yeah, I was just saying, wouldn't that just be bestiality then? Because, like, I mean, yeah, they're mutated, but they're still a turtle.
yeah, if you were to further
Can
that
a
relationship, it would be counted as bestiality. Usually what we consider as bad in
can a mutant turtle
bestiality.
consent?
Yeah, I mean, we've established that they have a consciousness and that they, are, like, pretty humanoid in nature and in thinking capacity. If that is or isn't bestiality because of that, I still have no idea. I wouldn't do it. I'm going to take a bold stance. I'm not going to have any romantic or otherwise furthered relationship with a mutated animal. I like adult human women.
But what if they were hot?
How hot?
They were smoking.
I'm sold. I'm sold already. I don't care if it's like a flea or whatever. I'm doing it.
Also speaking on the let's talk about that Michael Bay Ninja Turtles movie. How do you think that compares to this?
Oh,
Like, how do you feel about that in
I
comparison?
think I think this new one is so much better. Michael Bay one has its fun. I'm going to admit it has its fun at times. Uh, the designs for them can are and the Michael Bay ones are a little weird though. Uh,
They're so weird.
I think the
They
voice
look so
acting,
strange.
yeah, the voice acting was really good. I think all the real non-CG people like Megan Fox playing April O'Neil was just lazy, just normal Michael Bay stuff that you see in Transformers too.
Yeah, I don't know how she got back because right before that movie, she was all trash talking like I think it was Spielberg or something and Michael Bay for like their directing, and then she got fired, or she was flaming Michael Bay, and then
Mm,
whoever the director was, I think it was Spielberg, fired her because she was like, "Don't talk about the director like that." What? And then just booted her.
wow, really?
Yeah, but
Gosh, that
that movie, I will agree with you. It has a really fun atmosphere and stuff. But do you do you prefer the journey they go on in that movie where they're just taking down like basically the same plan the lizard had in the Amazing Spider-Man?
uh,
Do you like that or do you like this movie, I guess? Which adventure do you prefer?
well, wait, doesn't Superfly also have the same plan as Lizard in, Amazing Spider-Man? I mean, both of the plans are
Well,
to super mutate everything in a vicinity and cause mass mutation.
to a degree. We always That's always a thing in comic movies. It's always a gas from a tall tower.
Yeah, it happens
I
quite a
don't that
lot.
it's always, really we should be preventing against that. We should I
We
mean,
need to get
can we put
zoning laws.
vacuums up there?
We need to make giant blimps that just collect the air and put it through a filter. Actually,
Joker
that
relieved nerve toxin over the city. Get the bat vacuum.
I'm not remembering really the first Michael Bay, Turtle movie that well, but I do really enjoy the sort of conflict we have in this with Superfly, especially because of how it evolves. It going from, "Yeah, we're gonna mutate everyone, and then humans will become, extinct and then or slaves," or something like that, and then it goes from that to, "I'm actually just gonna wreak as much havoc as I can," because Superfly's plan fails and he becomes Godzilla.
In in terms of blockbusters,
Mhm.
I think that the Michael Bay one was a better blockbuster movie.
I will agree with you.
But
Absolutely.
in terms of, like, just my enjoyment and how I think the film is quality-wise, I think this film did a lot better in capturing kind of the essence of the Turtles and their start and just their whole atmosphere really well. And just this whole movie, it never felt out of place, it never felt kind of super hammed on. It
Yeah.
was just very they showed restraint when they needed to, and the jokes weren't, like, constant and, like, drowning you, they were pretty well spaced out, and when they
Mhm.
weren't, it was intentional to just kinda show, like, how they're kids, and,
And I
just so I really have very little complaints about this movie, and I think the
yeah.
audience scores are reflecting that too. I think it has a 98 on Rotten Tomatoes.
It has a pretty high rating in Rotten Tomatoes. I think it deserves it. It might be a little high because I'm probably gonna be rating it,
Mhm.
a little lower. I have some issues with that movie, probably just because I'm a little bit outside the general audience. I think this would do really good with kids in the PG-13 range. Uh,
Yeah, well, it's PG.
I think this will do horrible with kids in the PG range. No, no, I'm
I honestly, I don't there's a lot of slow bits.
there are some slow bits. I'll agree with
I
you
don't
on
well,
that.
not a lot, but, like, I don't know, I guess. I don't know if little kids would be super into it.
I think kids will be fine with wherever it goes.
We watched the same movies before that were superhero movies as kids, and we were still into them, but they weren't made for us.
Yeah.
But so getting into the rating then, what are you thinking of giving this movie out of 5?
Me, I'm probably gonna give it around a 3.5. That's where I find myself when I see a good movie. I'm not necessarily going to be praising this a lot. I probably am gonna wait a decent amount before I ever see it again if I do. But I had a good time in the theater. I thought there were a lot of fun bits in it, and I would hope that this would get its money back, especially on such a wonderfully low budget it had. It was a very good experience.
Mhm. I'd really agree. I'm gonna give it a 3. It was just a pretty solid movie. It was better than I expected it was going to be, but it didn't completely blow me away. I was just pretty happy with the experience overall, and the movie, it just was paced well, it looked nice, the characters are all believable and worked with each other really well. Biggest problem is just those fucking people and, some of those background characters.
Yeah, yeah.
But, yeah, I think a 3 is really good for this movie.
Yeah. Well, do we wanna
God, we're forgetting, the end credit scene.
Oh, yes, the end credit scene, it featured, the main well, it featured a lot of things. It featured was that where they showed prom?
They showed Prom, and then they showed our kind of main background-ish villain,
Yes.
throughout this movie who
Mhm.
tipped off the reveal for Splinter.
For Shredder.
Shredder. That
Yeah.
too.
We see them living after the, movie ends, we see them have assimilated with the outside world. Having revealed their identities to New York City, they now are going to high school and enjoying their time there. We see the institution that invented the ooze trying to capture them in the sense of like, "Okay, we need to plan how we're gonna get these kids." And in
Well,
that
the
yeah.
institution that originally had, like, destroyed the guy at the very beginning of the movie's lab with Baby
Baxter, yeah.
Superfly. Yeah, they didn't create it, but they stole the serum and they now produce it, I guess. Was that it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, basically.
Um, but yeah, so they tipped off, Shredder for the next movie, and
Mhm.
I'm really excited about that, but I'm worried about Splinter because I don't know how they're gonna do that.
Yeah, I think the connection between them is probably not gonna be there. More than anything, it seems as if they're gonna take Shredder into being sort of a Deathstroke character, where he's more of a, mercenary for hire than he is the leader of the Foot Clan or his own boss in any sense, which I think is lame. Hopefully, they do some rewriting before they get there, because
I think they'll definitely I think they'll definitely do the Foot Clan thing still. I think he'll just be the big boss of, like, "Alright, Shredder, get your" like a private army kinda thing.
that would be nice, that would be nice. I do wanna see
But yeah.
some good, ninja fights in the future because this was really good. We see them fighting against, mutants, that were similar to them, and we see them fighting against, I guess, armed guards at the, at the institution plant. But overall, these aren't any adversaries of them. There's nobody that's going to show us some really great scenes until we get to Foot Clan and we see Ninja v Ninja.
Yeah, I'm really excited for that. I think the next movie hopefully only improves on this and tells just another good story of the turtles kind of moving on. I just hope they advance it in some way and they just don't stick in the same place. But yeah, I think a 3 and a 3.5 is just a really good rating for this movie.
Yeah, it's a
And
good movie.
into now transitioning into our news segment this week, isn't there? I mean, are the writer strikes coming back for anything?
Okay, so this week, we are going to be seeing tomorrow, which should be today as of release if this is on Friday.
Yeah,
We are
August
going to
4th.
Yeah, on August 4th, we are seeing the Writers Guild of America, and we're seeing, the Producing League. I forgot the name of them. They're gonna be sitting back down for negotiations. Now, it's really hard for me to say if that's gonna lead anywhere. They've been back to the table a few times on and off, and not much has been going on, but we do see that there's sort of a shrivel up in writers, and we also see that big companies like Warner Brothers are going to be pressured into starting writing right away because they have plans to make a lot more movies for Mattel products. So if they
Hmm.
want to get ahead on that, they're going to have to get writers back. So I'm sure Warner Brothers is probably really hoping to get them back. Marvel is probably at a pretty good level right now with writers. I imagine they've backlogged quite a few stuff. Their concern isn't
Yeah, I'm
writers right
sure.
now, it's actors. They need people to be at
Yeah.
premieres, and they need to be filming stuff right now.
I
Uh,
wouldn't be surprised. I mean, the writer strikes, if they weren't feeling them before, they're definitely going to be feeling them very soon, just because these have been going on for months at this point.
yep.
And they've only been growing in popularity more and more. And now, like with the Screen Actors Guild and the producers, just everyone on strike, it's just, I mean, something's got to budge tomorrow. I'm
Mhm,
hoping that it does. Um, but there's always the possibility that the CEOs can just shrug it off and then just continue doing what they're doing.
mhm. Hopefully, what we see tomorrow is some concession. Uh, we're probably gonna have something where they'll say, "Okay, here's how we feel about residuals. This is what we'll do with that. However, we're lenient on what we want with AI." That's probably what the producers will say. The writers will probably say, "Okay, let's try to work it out together." They'll probably get somewhere on some footing, and then it just will end up being a strike for a little bit more, probably a few weeks, as they try to figure out the exact specifics of it. There's
Mhm.
probably going to be some point where they're like, this is a non negotiable. And at some point, it will be negotiable. But, you know,
Yeah. I think with the writer strikes, one thing that is kind of interesting, especially with AI, is I think them figuring out copyright in terms of with AI works that use AI will be kind of interesting
yeah.
because then it would be like, well, you didn't make this, the computer made it. And it's like, well, it was my computer. And it's like, but the computer made it.
Mhm,
Come on. And so I think it's definitely gonna be a thing in the near future.
mhm.
That's gonna have to be debated and dealt with.
Yeah. More importantly, when it comes to copyright and AI, we're going to have to battle with what's inside of an AI's database that it's fed and how that plays into the original work. Because this has been an argument for a while now where everything that goes through an AI's database will influence the art that it makes. Therefore, are we breaking any copyright laws by having that in the database? Are we somewhat plagiarizing this in some sense? Because it's not as if
Yeah.
AI can take actual like inspiration from something. It's taking what's on the page and it's copying it.
Yeah, it's
Um,
rewording it. Like that's
yeah.
all it is. It's just putting it through a thesaurus. And so I mean, yeah, well technically it is a different work because the words are a little different.
Hmm.
I don't know. I think it's just gonna be really interesting to see how that works in the future.
Yeah.
I know Crayola is opening a studio now. Right after Mattel was starting to do all movies and stuff
Yeah.
with
We
how
have.
good Barbie went. But
Mhm.
what is a Cran movie? What are we gonna do?
It's gonna have you ever seen those really bad, Elf on the Shelf movies that are horribly low budget and everything looks plastic?
Yeah, see, I was hoping for a live action. We just see like Chris Evans as like the Red Cran, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking animated, but if it's live action, I have no idea where it could be going.
No, I'm only gonna hope it's live action, but just Really, I'm just really excited for the overall Crayola franchise. I just think it's a really big boost for the movie industry. Just
The
really,
movies
honestly,
are
just
back.
excited. Yeah, just excited to go back in theaters. Excited for this industry for where we're going.
The
You know, I just love that mac and cheese crayon. Actually, it's not a thing anymore. I think they changed the mac and cheese crayon.
I don't think a lot of their things can be named after food anymore just because kids are more likely to eat it.
That's horrible. Why not, man?
Nick is pro natural selection.
Hey, man, if your kid eats crayons and dies, that's on you. That is not my problem.
um, Speaking of movies that are going to be coming out because of the success of Barbie, we also have a Monopoly movie confirmed. And why do we
Mhm.
need specifically a movie that's labeled after Monopoly? Because you wouldn't be able to like keep a lot of references to Monopoly in it. At the end of the day, it's just going to be a show about people getting money. And like we have so many of those already. Succession just finished up. Do we really need to
It'll
like make it Monopoly focused?
it'll come out and then it'll go away. It'll go straight to streaming like after a week, I'm
Yeah.
sure.
I mean,
And
the big thing is no, sorry, go ahead.
that's really all I had. I just think it's
Uh,
gonna come out and then go to streaming.
yeah. Movies that are revolving around board games and toys like this from Mattel are going to end up in the same section as every movie about a theme park ride that wasn't Pirates of the Caribbean. It's basically going to be the same exact niche. Pirates did really good, so Disney thought, "Oh, let's just keep making these." And they did Haunted Mansion and they did Tomorrowland and they did Jungle Cruise and nobody liked them.
Mhm. Yeah, also, what is The Rock doing, man? All of his last movies have bombed so bad. Like, he needs a good role.
He
He needs to go back to, like, I think honestly, I think he needs to go back to just a very simple, um, just he did his best work in, like, the WWE.
This is
Just his
true.
best, like, character work and stuff. And so, I'm not saying I don't think I think he needs to go back wrestling, but he just needs a not big budget movie role. 'Cause,
He
like,
needs
John
his
Cena
uncut
God, John
gems.
Cena was the dad in Fred, and he was in the Suicide Squad and, like, whatever, and, he was
And
great.
yes, John Cena has increased his acting capacity by so much, and The Rock hasn't. And at the end of the
Mhm.
day, I think it's because The Rock's contract and necessarily his ability or his ego is getting in the way of it. We see The Rock have
Definitely.
we see The Rock have a contract where he's not allowed to lose, where he almost always has to be a protagonist and moral, and you just see him playing very limited roles and not really branching out with his acting. The biggest thing he can do, and the best thing he can do, is literally just experiment. Do something that he hasn't done before and just see what happens. Uh, if he had his uncut gems, I'm sure there would be people who really could turn a like leaf on him and say, "Man, I'm actually really digging The Rock." But so far, he's the bottom of a lot of wrestlers come become actors. I'd say the top is Dave Batista, and
Mhm.
then you got The Rock. I liked Roddy Piper in the one movie he was in with the guy who did The Thing. I don't know why I'm completely
Oh, yeah, I
blanking on
love
that.
that one. That's good. Oh, thank God.
People
That when he did that thing, God, that was so funny.
You know
That was my
what's
favorite.
worse? I wrote a paper on that movie and it was 12 pages long and I can't remember the name of it or okay, John Carpenter. John Carpenter is the director, so I'm halfway there.
Yeah, The Thing?
No, he did the thing,
I
but
don't know.
it's the one with Roddy
Anyway,
Piper. Never mind, never mind.
the one with Roddy Piper.
The one
Anyway,
with
it
Roddy
was good.
Piper.
But, yeah, I mean, yeah, I really don't have any other news, aside from that.
Wonder Woman 3 is in production, Gal Gadot says, which when I sent that to you, you thought I typed in WW3 and your immediate thought was, "Oh, obviously World War 3."
Yeah, no one texted me. He said WW3 is in the works, and I said, "Huh?" And it was a good moment.
I think the funniest part is when I clarified it was Wonder Woman 3 and you said that's so much worse.
Yeah, I said, "No."
I mean, people really liked The first Wonder Woman at the time, that was one of the biggest female-directed movies of all time. Wonder Woman
Yeah, I think
2.
it did really well,
Yeah.
but then didn't Wonder Woman 84, like, bomb?
Wonder Woman 84 bombed both in reviews and in sales, and
Yeah,
mostly because no movie is gonna do good if you have Pedro Pascal in it without a mustache. Really
that's
dumb
very
choice
true.
on their part. Uh, I don't think anybody's really shooting for Wonder Woman 3, which sucks because she's such a big, name to have, but it just doesn't seem as if, anybody's really excited for the next Wonder Woman.
No one's asking for it right now.
Yeah.
We've gotten a lot of superhero content recently, which there's always been just a lot of superhero content for the last, like, decade, or 2, I guess,
Yeah.
but I just think it's very, very saturated, especially with multiverse things. It's very saturated,
Mhm.
and just I think it's once we get some normal movies out, it'll be good, and then the reception for that kind of thing will probably do better. But hey, maybe it's really good. You know, like what if
Yeah.
it's great when it comes out? That'd be cool.
I think what's might help us is gonna be this break we're about to have, at least from, DC content. We're
Hmm.
gonna see the next ones that are coming out is gonna be Blue Beetle and then Aquaman, and I think
Yeah, and then that should be the start of the new DCU.
yeah, that
I
should be
think
the
is what they're
start of the new
saying.
DCU, and I'm really hoping that with these writer strikes and these, Screen Actors Guild strikes, we're gonna get a good pause on all of that, and we're gonna let everyone have time to breathe, and then we can go into the new universe with some time.
Yeah, for sure. I think that'd be perfect.
Okay. Any last words?
No, I mean that's really all I had to say.
Okay. Well, we've been Wham. You've been Wham. And have a safe drive home, everybody.
Bye. Thank you for listening. See y'all next week.